those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm Carlos Caesar.
And CJ's muted.
I'm not muted anymore. I'm here.
All right. There's going to be some unhappy people. You got unmuted. So.
Yes, I know. Well, we have a group of people we have to recognize this morning, Chip.
Yep, the sellout, the Sam sellouts. Let's hear it for the Sam sellouts.
Yeah, well, let's first recognize our viewers in our foreign lands. We found out yesterday that Spindle City Straight Talk actually is watched and has actually made the Vietnamese and Cambodian news services.
Wow.
Our videos are actually being aired on their website. I had to actually translate it. How's that for a kicker? So I want to welcome our Vietnamese and Cambodian viewers, and maybe they should come here. Maybe they can fix our problems.
Yeah, well, I can tell you one thing: they do a lot better job than the sellouts that are sitting in the city council chamber.
Well,
you know, it's a travesty. It really is. It's a travesty what they've done to this city, and you know we watched 3 days worth of BS being slung, and we found all these errors and inconsistencies and flat out lies, and like the jobs that were supposed to be cut weren't actually jobs. Half of them were unfilled, and they weren't going to lay off that many people in the first place, which made it a scare tactic again, using them, as I said on Wednesday, as human shields for their incompetency and their lack of courage to vote to make this mayor cut from the top and reorganize and spend our money wisely. But no, we listened to a litany of fabricated figures and listened to our city administrator tell us how, you know, they all deserve more money because they're doing such a great job. And, you know, they forget that we're living in Fall River here, but, you know, some of them leave and get higher pays, and some of them apply in other places and get shot down and have to come back here and say that they should get more money. So, you know, it's deplorable. The fact is that they made some concessions. Supposedly now the mayor said, well, you know, we're not going to charge you for your unoccupied apartments. Well, if the budget was that tight, I did some quick figuring. That's almost if only 20% of the, and I'm rounding it down, I believe they said 31,000 residential
correct
units. So let's go down and do some quick math. We'll go to 30,000, round figures. 20% of that is 6,000. 6,000 at $10 is 60,000 times 12 months. That's about 700 and, you know, $750,000, 720 or so. It's almost $750,000 not getting, will not be realized in a budget. Yet this budget that was so finite that we had to lay off people, we can absorb a $750,000 cut, and we're still not going to lay anybody off, which means, what does that mean? If you're negotiating, it means your budget's bullshit. That's what it means. And
that it's not just the revenue that's not going to come in. Remember now, 60% of our community are getting assistance. So now they're going to purchase bags at 31 cents.
That's right.
So 60% of those people are going to get away with, you know, the purple bag, and the money, it's budget. The
right.
money the money they're supposed to raise from those bags are on the budget.
Right. So you're talking $2.5 million, okay, on the purple bags. Mm-hmm. Take 60% of that away. Now we're not going to lose any money supposedly, mm-hmm. okay, because we're going to sell them at 31 cents a piece. All right. So if
But we're not making any money.
But we're not making any money either.
Let's make that point.
Right. But 60% of that, okay, of 2.5 million, you're already talking 1.35.
And add the 750,000 from the units. We now we're talking some serious money.
Right, now we're talking over $2 million.
Exactly.
And here's the kicker. Who's going to sell those bags? Because the merchants aren't going to sell them. And then how do you verify that people are actually on low income? What do? You come in and present your EBT card? And, oh, do they take the EBT card at City Hall to pay for it? Where are the bags going to be sold? Oh, wait a minute, new job. Somebody's going to get a job out of this, and you know that.
But if you go back, and if we go back to the money that's supposed to be raised and it's on the budget.
Correct.
We're talking about $2 million. It's going to come from that free cash.
Correct.
So that $3 million that we're supposed to have as a free cash comes down now to $1 million because that money is supposed to be raised during this budget.
And here's the kicker, though. That free cash money has already been promised.
That's right.
That money's been promised to the school department.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the other issue that I have with that is that free cash, we are taking 75% of the free cash to the school department at this point.
Correct.
If something happens on the city, that we have an emergency, that we need to spend $1 million in an emergency, right there, we are going to have enough money because the city council said, well, we will make sure this school department will get the money first. Everything that comes onto the table, we're not approved until we get the school department. But guess what? If we got an emergency and we need $1 million from the free cash, what are we going to do?
Well, I think Paul Schmidt was out front of Government Center with this fertilizer truck collecting it, because I'm telling you now, there was plenty of it around there.
Look, the reality is this whole budget, it was an absolute fabrication. There's money squirreled away, the cushions they talked about, jobs that were unfilled, they projected they were going to lay off, which, by the way, is a lie. You can't lay somebody off that's not there.
Exactly.
That's called attrition. When you lose a job through retirements and unfilled retirement, you don't fill the position. It's called losing a job through attrition. It's not a layoff, okay? You lose a position, but you don't eliminate somebody's job. So number one, that was a lie. Number two, we've got a ton of cushion in this budget, and when all else fails and they spend all our money, it's going to be an increase in the fees again. So we're going to be facing this again. And then we're going to parade everybody up again and threaten their jobs, and everybody's going to, buy it. That's why we need to eliminate these people. We need to eliminate this mayor. We need to start being realistic, because you know something? The sellout, Sam's sellouts, the three sellouts.
The Sam Stooges?
Yeah, Sam Stooges, Sam sellouts, they sold out. Let's face it. We had one of them that voted for the budget, against the budget last year. Linda Pereira said categorically she would have voted against last year's budget. Both of them were basically voting against pay-as-you-throw, yet this year they vote for a budget that has not only pay-as-you-throw, but it also has fees imposed above. Now, and I got to say something, because Dan Rigo, I guess, went on a tirade and tried to justify his position this year and said, we just have to come to the fact that we have to pay for trash. Yeah, you're right, but not 4 times like we do. We paid for the DPW salaries, we bonded for the barrels, we paid for the bags, now we're going to pay a fee. You don't have to pay 4 times, number one, Dan. And I'm going to tell you something, CJ, we're going to look through the archives and try to find last year's budget meetings, because he contended or alluded to last night that the only reason he didn't vote for last year's budget was there was no transparency. And that's BS. He was voting for it because of the purple bags, he said. And we're going to prove it, Dan. So be careful what you say, because we're going to find out exactly what you did say. Because you didn't vote because there was no transparency, because that's an absolute crock. Because the same clowns that presented last year's budget presented this year's budget, and it was as transparent as last year's, because it was all BS.
You know, and that's the thing. We see this all the time. And, you know, we started looking at this, and when you looked at the Finance Committee meeting, okay, obviously we've always said these people have no idea of parliamentary, you know, how to run a meeting. They have no parliamentary proceedings or rules whatsoever. But the question that, the motion that was made was the approval of the budget with the appropriation of $121,585 for the school department, okay? So they voted 8-1. Do they realize that they voted for the approval of the budget? Because that's exactly how it was worded. And I called the city clerk's office this morning, and they said, no, that was how it was worded. But that was in the Finance Committee meeting portion. And then the meeting was adjourned, and then went to the special city council meeting to approve the budget. And so it was legal, but do they listen to what they say? Do they listen to what they're voting on? The only person who voted against it in the finance was Jaisal Correa, because he knows that the school department budget is a joke. And then in the city budget approval process, 6-3, Joe Camara, Jaisal Correa, Mike Mayoza all voted in the negative, okay, which is right, because they know this is bull. Because think about it. They approved the budget with a $10 fee assessment on each residence, not business. $10 fee with each residence. Now, that ordinance is going to be coming up before the city council. So if they vote down that ordinance, how can they vote it down when they just approved it? They de facto approved it, just like they did with the purple bags last year. They gave a de facto approval to it and sent it forward. And if that money doesn't get approved, you have just decimated your budget.
Well,
and that's going to be their excuse.
But they're going to have to make an amendment, because as the ordinance reads, if it's enforced, you have to charge for unoccupied. And the mayor has said that they're going to have to amend that ordinance and revote it. It technically, but who cares? They never do anything right. And, you know, I've got to say, you know, one of our close friends and somebody who serves on a lot of panels and been on guest, Dan Robillard, had a conversation outside the city hall with a city official who basically said, and he questioned him on the fact that what happens if you don't get as much money from this, because you're exempting, you know, unoccupied residents. Now you're going to sell bags cheaper. And the individual told him, it doesn't matter. It won't affect it. That's already factored in. So that means the budget was a complete sham, a complete, you know, BS job that they were giving the people, and the threats and stuff were to get more money. And the reality is, look, we get back down to the bottom line. They sold out to Sam, and Sam sold the taxpayers of the city out. The fact is, yesterday's vote was 6-3 against the people of Fall River. And that's the bottom line.
And let me add something else. That I could be wrong. Again, I'm not a lawyer. You know, I just pay tax. But because I have to. So let me just say this. And the city is saying that when a person goes private on their trash, that they're going to be automatically out of the city system, so the city will not have more expenses with that person. That's not true, because guess what? We're going to keep the same employees. They're going to still work 40 hours a week. They're going to have expenses, even just driving by their house, we are paying for.
Yeah.
Okay, so right there is another expense. If 40% of our community calls private haulers, we still have expenses coming from that address, and we're not collecting money from that.
No, you're 100% right, Carlos, because how do you justify if before you used to pick up 100% of the barrels on the street?
I'm always right.
Well, and if you're not right, you do what Sam says. You go, don't worry about it, we'll get around it. Like he said about the law. Oh, don't worry, there's an ordinance that says it's got to be in by May, by the end of May, and he said, oh, don't worry about it, we'll get around it. I'm a lawyer and I don't care about the law. So even if you're not right, you're right, because you just make yourself right.
But you know, here's the thing. They still don't have a method that we know of to exempt yourself from the $10 fee. And can you picture the logistics of this? because they are not going to grant you a $10 exemption if your apartment's empty for 1 month. According to what I've been told, according to what I've heard in the budget hearings, that apartment has to be empty for an entire year. So for someone like my next door neighbor who does not rent out her second and third floor apartments, that makes perfect sense. But for somebody like myself and other people who own properties, they're not going to leave an apartment empty for an entire year. It may be empty for 3 months, it may be empty for 4 months, but you still have to pay for that. But there's no form, there's no process. So my idea, and I want our viewers to do it, to show the city how little money they're going to get, type up a little letter that says, please be advised, I am not eligible to pay the $10 fee. Please be sure that my property is excluded as I has hired a private contractor. My private contractor is, sign it and mail it to the assessor's office. And that way, you're done. Mail copies of it to DPW so Kenny Pacheco gets it as well. And this way, they have no excuse. So when they set their budget for July 1st and the new tax bills go out, they can say, uh-oh, because you know they're going to bill you on July 1st for that fee, and then you try to get them to abate it. You're going to be fighting a losing battle.
But look at the other issue here, too. It's always like they do with businesses. They create problems for everybody. Now, let's say you own a 3-family house and you've had an apartment empty for 6 months. You want to get rent. So you got a person that comes in, and now you go, well, I can't rent it to you till the beginning of the next year because in order for me to get my credit, if I rent it to you, I've already lost half. They're going to charge me for the whole year. They're not going to prorate it. There's no provision in it to prorate it. You either pay for an entire year or you don't pay for an entire year. So what happens? It's gonna what? If somebody walks into your house 3 months before the end of the year and they say, well, I want to rent your apartment, what are you going to tell them? Well, I can't because I got to give the city $120 so I can get your rent. I mean, it's just absurd. Absurd.
And the abuse gonna come for sure, because a lot of people are gonna register their apartment as empty, and we know they're not. Yeah. I mean, my vice president from the association, he owns a full family. He only rents 2 apartments. It's not even rented, it's the owners. It's him in one apartment, the assistant in another apartment, and they use the other apartments for storage. So, but he is somebody that for 20 years, they have the empty apartment. But how many homeowners have this many years an apartment empty?
Yeah, no, and not only that, as you said, what happens with family? The family, you say, well, the apartment was empty because your brother, your sister lives there. So you'll say, and you don't claim it on your income tax, and you say it's empty. Now you get now any improvements you did to the apartment you're getting anyway in the income tax, you don't charge any rent. It reduces your income, and you clip the city for the 120. So hey, they're actually encouraging this kind of behavior, and the reality is that's what they're going to do.
And the city is going to rely on agencies that we already know they are corrupt, okay, and people are abusing the system to just as a backup, who's going to be able to buy those bags at 31 cents. So right there is telling me the abuse is going to turn now into the city sides, and we're going to keep paying for those beautiful cars for them to be driving around.
Well, remember, they deserve more money, Carlos. They deserve more money. And the other thing is, like I said, who's to say? Look what's happened. Look what happened with the potholes. Some people get paid quickly. Other people never get paid. Other people have to take them to court. Now these bags at cost. Is somebody that's related to a politician going to mysteriously get bags at cost? Is there going to be a black market in City Hall for at-cost bags? Are everybody who's politically connected going to get at-cost bags? I mean, all these questions. Listen, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that this city does anything on the up and up. Let me think. 22 windows, $9,000 doors, $5,000 showers, potholes for city councilors, friends. we're going to handle the bags properly. Look, you're right. I am in favor of casinos. I'm a gambling man. I'll bet you they screw this up too.
Yeah, but you know, Chip, here's the funny part about it. You know, the mayor made a 400, or I shouldn't say the mayor, well, maybe, Lou Pacheco. Lou, I wouldn't live in this crap hole, Pacheco, said that the city made a compromise, and there was a $470,000 windfall, which was being divided evenly amongst police and fire. Fire gets to keep their 175, police get 4 new officers. And now here's where that came from. $350,000 of that money came from the fact that the AFSCME did not approve their contract. Therefore, what do we do after July 1st when they finally approve a contract? And that $350,000 may or may not be there anymore. Do you see what we're talking about here? We're talking about a budget that is based upon lies, deceit, and travesties. This is all, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, okay?
Also contradictions, CJ, because he's calling this a windfall, yet they went on record saying we're never going to use one-time money in the budget anymore.
Right.
That's the reason they refused $1 million, not $350,000 or $400,000. Well, 900, Kathy will correct me. It's only 900 and change, but it's $1 million. It's close enough to be rounded up to $1 million from the employees, because we floated them a loan from the insurance advisory, from the insurance fund, our fund, to help our retirees maintain their drug prescription plan that has no copay. Now, we offered that money to defer the payment to us for another year so we could keep people on the payroll. But they knew they didn't have to keep people on the payroll. It was all crap. So they didn't do it. But it's a contradiction. I sat in a room and heard, and I will swear to this under oath, former police chief Pacheco. Oh, that's right. We're not in New Bedford, Pacheco. Okay. I will, and I will get the Insurance Advisory Committee, because they were all there, and they heard you say, we're refusing this $1 million because we don't want to use one-time money, grants or anything, to finance anything in this city. Yet, what did we just use to finance the fire and police? A windfall. A windfall is a euphemism for one-time money. It's like, okay, I'm going to finance the police department on a scratch ticket I just hit.
You know, Chip, the thing that really gets me, not only on that, is the fact that the budget shows an underpayment to, don't blow up, an underpayment to the retirement fund. I wonder what's going to happen there.
Well, there's going to be I'm on a board. We got a meeting next week, and I'll tell you what, there's going to be a lot of sparks flying when they try not to live up to their obligation to the retirees.
And remember, Sam Sutter, Captain Clueless, in his campaign promise said 100% of net school spending, 98.5 was approved in the budget, 98.5, and John, I have to go check on that information. Noons turned around and says, as long as it's 95%, our tax rate will be certified by the DOR. Well, that's wonderful. I'm very happy. But you want to use $2.6 million in free cash to meet the requirements of the school department. And our viewers may not know what free cash is. So let's tell them what free cash is. Free cash means the city robbed you. They took more money from you than they needed. They budgeted more money than they needed so that they had a bankroll at the end of the year so they could do stuff like this. All right? This is called robbing Peter to pay Paul. And you're Peter, you the viewer are Peter, and Paul is all this overpaid city administrators who are getting $26,000 stipends. $6,000 stipends, okay, because they deserve more money. You know what? You deserve more money when the community can afford to do it. And I don't want to hear from Kathy and Viveris, from Linda Pereira, from any city councilor, or from any department head, or more especially from Meg Mayo Brown, that we have to be competitive. We can't get people to come here because we can't pay them. You know, that's crap. That's crap. Okay? When you don't have the money, you don't get paid. End of story.
Let me say this. This budget in 3 days had so much changed that the 6 months they prepare of. They came with the apartments. Now it's okay, we can change it. Then came the bags, and then came, we fund $500,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so we fund $500,000. Here's my thing. Jason, it's right. If we give her another day, they will fund another $500,000
That's
just
right.
for us to approve this budget.
That's right.
But here's the thing: that $500,000 is going to come right back and knock on our door, because if we have another winter the way we had the last one, they're going to put that $500,000 on us. Guess what? If we didn't have to put the extra 2 police and the extra 2 firefighters, we will have an extra $500,000 to clean the snow this winter.
But you know,
so that's going to come up.
But you're right. But you got to remember, as CJ said, we got $3 million because they overcharged us for $3 million.
That's right.
So they overtaxed us for $3 million because they do this every year. They maintain unfunded positions. They save all the health care money, their share. They save the salaries. They save the benefits. And at the end of the year, and they realize they're not going to fill those positions. They know that, and they do it intentionally. But they put them in the budget. And as Kenny Pacheco said, 9 of the 18 positions they were saying were being laid off weren't even filled. Mm-hmm. So they have been unfilled.
Right.
And they got that money in the bank. But what they do is, look, they take our money from every conceivable angle. More fees, overcharge. They're over budgeting again, and they've got and they admit they have cushions. Listen, look, we need basically a zero-based budget. We need a forensic audit, and we need and I think they said, oh, you better know what you're talking about when you're talking about receivership. If you want to mention that was said at the meeting too. Well, I do know what receivership means. It means you bring somebody into this city who has no dog in the fight.
That's right.
Who's going to look at the bills and go, yeah, you're way overpaid. You got 15 people here that you don't need. They're gone. And these contracts, you're getting way overpaid. And right. Guess what? It's she can say what you want about people, but the fact is, when you go to Boston, you pay more to go to the hospital because you got better quality care. If you go to Fall River, this is a beer hospital. The Champagne Hospital's up in Boston. And so Chip, you can't run a beer city with Champagne administrators.
Right, but Chip, you know what? You and I both know, and you're a betting man, Chip. Carlos, you probably know this as well. I will put money on the fact that within 4 to 6 weeks after this budget has been approved and goes into effect, you are going to have department heads coming forward saying, we need an appropriation because this money isn't there. And we have to move money from this account to this account because we see it every day because it's become normal business. And that normal business means it's a lie.
Everything's a lie. The fact is, we know that, well, how long have we been preaching on this show? Why don't we have a budget like Newton that says, this is what we're going to do for the whole year? And in Newton, if you come back and go, we have to do this, and they say, you didn't have it in your budget, wait till next year. Like
exactly.
the Red Sox used to say.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see. And we'll be talking more about this next week. Chip won't be here with us Wednesday, but Carlos will. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Have a great weekend, and happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
That's right. I'll be making noise at the retirement board next Wednesday.
Can get you some noises,